A girl is in a shopping mall, buying bullets. She pays and leaves. A car with tinted glass stops in front of her. She enters the front and sits on her boyfriend's lap. The gang members in the car begin to load their guns. One of them screams at the girl for not buying his preferred bullet length. They drive to a home. The gang members leave the car and head towards a house. The girl remains in the car only for her boyfriend to return. The girl, Lydia, is not pleased with the way she was spoken to. Her boyfriend tells her that she must be trusted. She swears that she had not seen anything. Her boyfriend says he trusts her, but she must do something to be accepted in their circle. He offers her a gun and they both walk towards the house. The girl gets scared, but her boyfriend rushes towards her. He kisses her and makes her sniff some obviously not so legit drug. The girl then heads towards the back. She sees some kids playing, who approach her. She tries to chase them off when suddenly there is a gunshot. The back door glass of the house is broken. The girl rushes towards the house, only to see a dead man on the floor. A woman is also tied up, who doesn't look to be in very good shape. Jonah accuses her of stealing and says she cares more about money than her dead husband. The girl Lydia begs him not to hurt the woman, only for the man to grab her and tell her to shoot the woman to prove that she is part of the group. The girl hesitates. Her boyfriend then informs her that all the bullets used in the murder scene were bought by her, making her a prime suspect. He screams at her to shoot. The woman who has been on the chair suddenly gets up, and because of the tension or so, the girl ends up shooting her boyfriend. She runs. A man called John is being wished happy birthday by what seems to be members of a helping discussion group that focuses on alcohol addiction and basically the use of illicit drugs rehabilitation. John talks about his past, his mistakes, his time in jail, and so on. He doesn't seem to be in a good mood. Still, he points out that he's happy he is no longer in a joint, and that he has broken out of his addiction. He and Kirby walk back home. Kirby wishes him a happy birthday and also complains about his mood. John is not really defensive. Kirby asks him if he wanted some coffee. He says that he has people coming over. He and Kirby both argue about his attitude but leave each other in a light mood. John even asks if the coffee offer is still standing. Kirby tells him some explicit things. John smiles walking back home. Back at home, John is tattooing a woman who's complaining about her marriage life or former marriage life. She shows some interest in John but gets a cold response in return. She asks about the picture of the missing girl on the wall. She asks John if she's his daughter. He returns if the woman had seen her. John receives a call from his daughter. She is asking for cash. She wants to go very far away, she says. John is excited and quite elated to hear from her. He asks her how much she needs. She says she needs about $2,000. John promises her that he is coming to give the money to her. His daughter makes this call from a call booth. John runs off to his car, which struggles to start. He then rides off. John has parked his car by the street side. He stares at the young ladies moving about, enjoying their nightlife. He is obviously looking for his daughter. He sees a young lady walking towards his car. She is staring at him in confusion. He finally calls her attention before she approaches his vehicle. She slides into the vehicle. She greets him and promises to pay him back every penny. John simply nods. He still seems amazed by seeing her. He asks her to rest. She agrees and sleeps off. She appears to be drunk. John notices as he drives off. John parks his car in front of his trailer. He carries his daughter into the trailer, which is his home, and lays her down on a bed. He goes through her bag, pours out the alcohol he finds in her, finds her gun, uncocks it, and hides it. He gets rid of some other strange materials he finds. John is tattooing an elderly person, while Lydia seems to be surfing through the TV. The television is showing ancient channels and Lydia complains, asking if there is no other channel that wouldn't make her feel like she has gone back in time. She approaches her father, who is tattooing the old man, and John begins to boast about the tattoo being one of his best works. The girl notices something like cancer on the place the tattoo is. John tells her to go outside and play. John keeps asking her about what is making her disturbed and scared. She doesn't give him any clear answer. One day, the girl opens her phone only to see a message from her boyfriend's gang, promising her that they would find her. She rushes off towards the bathroom, screaming that she wants to be alone when John asks what is bothering her. John tells her to at least keep her bag. She shoves him her bag and closes the door of the restroom. John calls his friend, Kirby, complaining about his daughter. He complains about not knowing what to do as he knows something is wrong and his daughter is hiding something from him. Kirby tells him to turn her into a hospital for detoxification. He tells him that he doesn't want to hand his daughter to strangers while he barely just found her. Kirby asks him from his own yard, shouting and asking John why he called him then. John is sitting outside when a car drives in. Some men that seem to be from Mexico step out. They walk towards John and ask him to give them some tattoos. John refuses and asks them to leave. The men begin to threaten and ask for his daughter. He turns and walks into his trailer despite the scream of one of the men warning him not to turn his back on him. John shuts the door, only for the men to begin to bang on his door. They even break his window glass. John uses a knife to stab one of them's hand who is trying to open his door. The men begin to shoot. John is angry. He tells his daughter he is glad to meet her friends. He receives a call from Kirby who wants to know what is going on. He grabs his daughter's gun and fires at the men. The men retreat and fire automatic rifles at the trailer. They eventually use their vehicle to knock the trailer upside down. The men come down from their vehicle and scream at John asking if he is dead yet. Kirby and some group of neighbors rush to John's rescue. They point their guns at the gang members causing them to retreat. John runs off with his daughter, despite Kirby's pleadings that they should not flee. John says he cannot hand over his daughter to anyone. When John and his daughter enter their car, it refuses to start. Lydia begins to cry and say she was sorry for dragging him into her case. John accepts her apology but refuses to hand her over to anyone. The car eventually starts and they both zoom off into the dark. Lydia eventually tells her father what really happened. She tells him the entire story. She had met Jonah at a party. He was 30 and she felt he was a real man. Jonah gave her accommodation in a cottage which was actually a place he and his gang used in order to hide money stashes. One day she threw a party. There was a broken glass and someone put his hand through the wall. Of course, something got missing. Lydia then pointed out that she and the gang had gone to the home of one of the people staying in their houses who had been stealing from Jonah. Probably as a lesson, Jonah had pointed out that despite him believing her that she hadn't seen anything. Members of the gang had a problem believing her, so she had to prove her loyalty by shooting the woman who had been stealing from him. She, of course, ended up shooting Jonah. After traveling for some time, they decided to spend a night in a motel. The receptionist asked John where he had found her from. John retorted, obviously pissed, that it was from the delivery room. Lydia tries to engage the man, but her father drags her off. When he sleeps off, she returns only to notice that her name is all over the news and is being suspected of murder. The young man then shows her a missing poster of her, with a $30,000 reward. She immediately calls her father, tells him to gather all their things, and come downstairs. When John reaches her, she tells him about the fact that she and he were both now wanted by the police. They both notice a police patrol car and hide. The police go towards their car and move to their room, only for them to get shot by an unknown individual. John steals a vehicle. While trying to start the car, they get fired at by the strange individual. They manage to escape. John tells Lydia that the person she had killed was definitely more important than she thought because the person that shot at them was one of the cartel's soldiers who were responsible for killing police officers and soldiers. He makes some phone calls to one of his friends in prison to find out who Jonah really was. John and his daughter hitch a ride with some Mexicans who seemed to have crossed the border. John finds out that his daughter can speak Spanish, quite fluently at that. They both head to find one of John's friends who John believes has the connections and wealth to help them. In search of his friend's present address, they both head to a club. Despite John's demand that Lydia stay outside, they both head into the club. John's questions about his friend's present location are met coldly by the bearded barman, who claims to know nothing. John storms off and makes a call to Kirby, tells him he is okay. He notices his daughter flirting with the barman and some men. He is angry. He drags her off to a table. His daughter complains about the way he treated her. She says she didn't want him to continue to flee with her. She was the one hunted, that she could just cross the border and disappear. Her father doubts her ability to make money and asks her how she was going to take care of herself, by tricks. She looks hurt. Her father then quickly apologizes to her. John is angry that he is unable to get his friend's address, which Lydia suddenly hands over to him. Seems she had not only been flirting after all. The two hitch a ride to his friend's property. They notice a sign warning of an electrically wired fence. John points out that it isn't really powered but still manages to scare his daughter. When they see the second warning about mines, Lydia jokes about how possible it was for there to be mines. John quickly tells her that the mines sign must be true and she should watch where she puts her leg. They meet John's friend's wife, who doesn't seem too pleased to see John but still tells him to go in but not to give the old man a heart attack. John meets the old man, of course asking for help. The old man isn't really sounding cooperative. John reminds the old man that he owes him, that the reason why he spent 9 years in prison was because he kept his mouth shut. The old man asks John and his daughter to spend the night, as members of the gang of obvious bike riders were coming in. Lydia gets to see her father's former fellow riders and seems quite disturbed by their wildness. The old man speaks to her, more like hateful mean gibberish meant to hurt. Lydia is spooked and goes to find her dad. She finds him cleaning his old bike he rode in his younger days. John apologizes to his daughter for not being there for her in her younger days. The next day they are woken up by the old man's wife with a shotgun. The old man has found Lydia's wanted posters. He seems not so inclined to help John anymore. John tells his daughter to wait for him outside. He screams at the old man, shouting about how he had sacrificed his young days for the old geezer. He manages to knock out the old man's wife who was holding a shotgun. He shouts about how disappointed he is at what the old man had become. He storms out. John and his daughter ride off with his bike only for two men on bikes to pursue them, shooting at them. Obviously, they are the old man's men. John uses his shotgun to kill one and somehow causes one to run into a truck. John and his daughter book a room. John tells her he is going to see a friend. He tells his daughter to wait for him and that he will be back. John leaves to see his friend, who seems to be highly connected in the underworld. His friend finally tells him who Jonah really is. He is, of course, close to a cartel main family but noted for causing problems. He had been sent to California as a form of banishment. It seemed he wanted Lydia to take the fall for the money he had laundered from the cartel, which was being hidden in the houses. Meanwhile, Lydia is captured by Jonah, who isn't so dead anymore. John sees his daughter's missed call on his phone. He calls back only for Jonah to answer. Jonah tells him that Jonah had betrayed him and proceeds to kill him. John blows hot. He tells Jonah that if anything happens to his daughter he would gladly tell his uncle of all his shady dealings. Jonah agrees to meet John. John goes back to the old man's estate and gets himself some grenades. He also kills the old man as he leaves. The man had drawn his gun first. John heads to the agreed location. He stops his bike and plants a grenade under it. He gets searched by Jonah's men, and his hands are tied up with some tape. Some of Jonah's men go to remove the bike from the road only to get blown up. John proceeds to bite off one of the gang men's ears. He uses the man's gun to kill him and fires at Jonah, who somehow manages to escape. He gets wounded by the cartel soldier who is on higher ground. He still manages to kill the man, not before he also receives a gunshot to his chest. John dies in the arms of his daughter. Jonah gets arrested by the police and is sent to the prison where John's friend is. A few years later, Lydia is still grateful to her father for giving up his life for her, so now she lives her life in remembrance of that. She says this in the same help discussion group her father had been in.
Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.